I wish I even had much to say about this, but unfortunately, it just is just another day in America here. Santa Clarita, California, where a shooter killed 2 students today, multiple injured. Teenage gunman opened fire at a Southern California high school Thursday morning, killing 2 students and wounding 3 others before shooting himself in the head. The suspect, whom authorities described as an Asian male and who turned 16 Thursday, was in grave condition at a hospital, Los Angeles County authorities said. The students who died were a 16-year-old girl and a 14-year-old boy. All of the victims and the suspect attended Saugus High School in Santa Clarita. 3 other students, 2 girls, 14 and 15, and a 14-year-old boy, were also shot in the school's quad before classes began. I don't really need to read the rest because they're all pretty much the same. What I don't even know. Like, what do we say to this? It's not new. I don't want to normalize it by not having a strong response, but I really don't have a strong response because nothing's going to change. Nothing. And frankly, as much as I mean, listen, we take on the corporate Democrats quite a bit. This is a Republican. Republicans are to blame, for the most part, for this gun massacre. The majority of the Democrats are on the right side of this.
Well, to be fair, or my point of view is I think that the Democrats are on the right side of it as long as PR is in play. So they're not, many of them are, don't get me wrong, but there are a heck of a lot of corporate Democrats out there who only say the right thing because it might help their poll numbers, whereas really they still are rubbing elbows with the NRA and that ilk.
But to tell you the truth, to me, I blame more than anyone else the media. Because in a sane country, where in many, many other countries, media is not so privatized, media is not run by 6 multi-billion-dollar corporate conglomerates, even a school shooting where 2 teenagers were killed and many other injured would be literally the story of the year.
Yeah.
It would be a story that does not go away in a day, which this one will. It would be a story that journalists, because other countries, particularly Great Britain, have actual journalists who do their job for the most part, would be challenging politicians. What are you going to do about this? But in our, if you want to call it journalistic system, we basically have the Jake Tappers of the world who say, oh, today's tragedy, you know, they do a play-by-play of what happened. They ask Democrats, what are you going to do about it? But they don't really challenge the people actually holding up legislation, which majority is the Republican Party, totally bought off by the Democrats. And to me, you know, it's like what we have done for years with Flint. Flint happened nearly 6 years ago. We have not stopped investigating it and spotlighting it because you don't normalize American citizens being poisoned by their own government and then left to die. Well, if that's the case, why would journalists normalize this? Why do journalists normalize what's not normal? Because, again, look, CNN already talking about experts, Russian spies may have intercepted Trump's call. I want to be clear. I'm not saying what Trump did is not corrupt. It is. But can the news, you know, CNN's got some resources. The New York Times has some resources. I think they could cover more things at once. And the fact that there is not going to be any follow-up coverage, the fact that Marco Rubio will not be challenged, Ted Cruz will not be challenged, Louis Gohmert will not be challenged, Mitch McConnell will not be challenged. Mitt Romney will not be challenged. Across the spectrum of the Republican Party, they will not be challenged. Says it all.
We had CNN on, excuse me, and we're shocked that they were actually covering the school shootings in real time. Anderson Cooper was on, and at one point Jordan said, you know, I can't believe, or this is going to probably help Trump. And I was so caught up in watching the footage. I was like, well, what do you mean? Why? And it's like, the impeachment hearings. It's like, oh my gosh, you're so right. Literally, to have CNN pull away from the impeachment hearings, I guess, was kind of a miracle. But here they are, already back.
I think I corrected myself because I don't know if there was hearings
Oh,
today.
during that time?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I gave them too much credit just now.
Yeah. If there were hearings, you probably would have had a split screen.
Split screen. You're right. Yeah, so maybe that didn't even happen.
But the bottom line is, folks, straight up, and we're going to talk about Bernie versus Warren a little bit. You need a revolution to stop this. Even a, somewhat more left person like Elizabeth Warren, she might become president. She might push for an assault weapons ban. She might not. But I don't think Elizabeth Warren is going to be fighting the NRA as her top priority. And I think Bernie Sanders, with the youth behind him, which we've already seen these Parkland students galvanize, that mega rally they had. What was that called? I forget. Where everybody got together in D.C., hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah, it was at Trumpapalooza or something. Who knows?
Right. So the bottom line is this isn't going to stop. And I always say, and you know this more than me as a mother, we're all targets. I mean, today could be all of our last day in this country. It's not just schools. It's malls. It's movie theaters. It's Walmarts. It's post offices. It's all over the place. And I assume for you, it's got to be really difficult not knowing.
Yeah, I mean, I've told this story before, but in 2012, when Sandy Hook happened, the news was breaking. They were talking about this was an elementary school. They started talking about the injuries and stuff like that. I freaked out because my son was in first grade at that time. And that was the ages they were starting to say was targeted. And so I started to freak out, and I started to make plans in my head. I'm going to go pick my son up right now. Then I found out I could not pick up my son because there was a lockdown. We're nowhere near Sandy Hook or anything. Some asshole had called in a threat to my son's school right after the news broke of Sandy Hook, just to cause trouble or whatever. So here I am freaking out, and I literally cannot go hug my son. And that's something I started crying today because there was a mother on CNN who was being interviewed, and right at that moment when she was being interviewed, her son called her, and because they hadn't been reunited yet. Her son called her, and so right there live, she's talking to her son, and she's like, he's saying, they were at the church, which apparently was walking distance, but they're gonna take us by bus somewhere else. And she's like, no, what do you mean? No, just stay there. I'm right here. I'm going to walk to you. And just hearing that franticness in her voice, she said, stay there. I need to hug you right now. And I just started crying because that feeling, as a mother, it's indescribable what that is. And so I just really sympathized with her, just putting myself in her shoes and just thinking about all the parents that day, all the family members, but also thinking about the students themselves, hearing them describe what it was like to hide in closets, to see the fear on their friends' faces. I remember one of the students they interviewed on CNN said, I will never forget the look on people's faces as they were running by. And then she stopped and she was kind of like, wait, I guess I had that look on my face too. It's just all you're thinking about is running away as fast as you can. I mean, there's not, like Jordan said, this isn't going to be in the news tomorrow, probably. They might do a couple follow-ups here and there. And this is terrible to say, but the body count isn't high enough for them to stay on this any longer, which thank God it isn't. But we need something to happen. And if something didn't happen after Columbine, and then many, many years later, if something didn't happen after Sandy Hook with dead bodies of 6-year-olds, what's it going to take?
I think it's on you guys. It's on us. I mean, got a lot of things to protest for right now, you know? You got Green New Deal, you got Fight for 15, Obviously, income inequality, working conditions, but none of that. Well, climate change, yes, but at least we have at least 10 to 12 years before planetary destruction that is irreversible. As far as the guns, you could have an hour. You could literally walk outside after this live stream, or if you're en route right now listening on your phone, and get shot somewhere. I'm not fear-mongering, but that's the truth.
I mean, last year near where I live in Annapolis, they had the Annapolis Gazette shooting. They had, it's literally just everywhere. It could happen to anyone.
Yep.
And it's a sickness that only this country has.
Yep.
And there are very clear ways to stop it.
So, we'll leave it at that. If there's any developments, we'll cover it. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.